Please welcome Arianna Rosenberg.
Good morning. I'm here to talk to you today about an amazing project that my firm, the Hudson Companies, is currently working on Roosevelt Island. In 2011, Cornell University won the rights to build a technology and innovation campus on Roosevelt Island. The university has ambitious plans for sustainability. As part of these plans, in partnership with the university, Hudson and its joint venture partner, the Related Companies, are developing the world's largest high-rise passive house residential building. Let's take a step back for a moment and look at where we are. More people are moving to our cities. Our country is urbanizing. So is the world. In this decade, the urban population has surpassed the rural and will continue to climb into the future. The average single-family house in the US equates to 969 square feet per person. At Cornell Tech, at the residential building, 352 units will house 532 residents. This equates to 512 square feet per person on average, a little more than half the average size of the single-family home. When thinking about why it's important to bring these new green technologies and standards to a city like New York, we have to contextualize the question. What does this mean for buildings? What does this mean for our city? Why is this so important now? As the population continues to grow in our densely packed city, a little over 70% of greenhouse gas emissions come from buildings. So we have this big problem, global warming. And we have this big greenhouse gas emitting source, buildings. So naturally, to solve the problem, the answer would be to look at the biggest offender. And in a densely packed urban environment like New York, one of the best ways to address climate change is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from buildings and making them as low load as possible. But it isn't that simple, or people would have been doing it for years now. There have been many policy initiatives in place from the past and present mayors that encourage and sometimes even mandate green developments. But we aren't going to get there with conventional construction. And this is where Cornell Tech Residential fits into the picture. This is our site on Roosevelt Island. Roosevelt Island is situated in the middle of the East River. It's easily accessible by public transit. On a side note, if you've never been to Roosevelt Island, I would highly recommend going. It's a really beautiful place. So what is Passive House? Passive House is the most rigorous energy efficiency standard in the world. What makes Passive House different is that, unlike other certification standards, it's based on absolute energy use, not on an enhancement over code. There's no scorecard, such as what LEED has. It's a performance-based approach to creating comfortable living environment and consistent air quality and air temperature. By keeping the building at a consistent and by keeping the building at a consistent temperature through passive design strategies, there's less reliance on heating and cooling systems in the building, drastically reducing the load and saving energy. With Passive House, you're given an energy budget, a few criteria, and the rest is up to you and your design team. And I have to say, on this project, we really have an amazing design team. Passive House was born out of Germany about 25 years ago, and it came out of a need for the country to be energy independent. The theory and science behind the technology developed was a direct response to stopping global warming and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But up until now, Passive House has only been done at a smaller scale, either single-family residential buildings, townhouses, or low-rise residential buildings. But in a city that thrives on density, the only way to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions is to adapt these standards and figure out ways to make them work in high-rise residential applications. This is pretty complicated because multifamily residences have complex systems that need to work together. And let's face it, doing business as usual is always easier than trying something out of the box. The most important criteria to implementing Passive House at this scale are three distinct features. One, a super insulated envelope. This basically acts as a thermal blanket wrapping the building and keeping it at a constant temperature. Creating a balanced fresh air system and exhaust system whereby tempered air is brought to every habitable space in the building. And three, a super efficient and highly variable cooling and heating system. In this application, we're using a variable flow refrigerant system. It's very low load. It's user controlled. I want to stress that it isn't that we are working with technologies that are unproven or new. As a developer, we don't like to be the guinea pig. Actually, it's quite a scary thought for us. But what we are doing is putting together these very complex systems that haven't been matched together before at this scale. I like to say it isn't that we are reinventing the automobile. We are just putting it together a little differently and a lot more efficiently. I'm sure you are thinking, why are we doing this? Here are a few answers. We believe that the building construction can produce a great quality of living environment for its occupants. We are hopeful that this project will potentially create a shift in the marketplace. It is always hardest being first, but these technologies are coming to the US market and they are developing very quickly. Once more contractors are familiar with this building typology and these building standards, we think that it will become more commonplace and you will see little to no upcharge for building this way. Most importantly, the university believes this is a way to support their mission and technology and sustainability, and they have been a wonderful partner to us. Lastly, over time, with a reduced load, we believe that residents will see a reduction in their utility bills, especially important for our occupants who are PhD and graduate students who are on a limited budget. Overall, we think the project will increase the cost of a typical building that we would build at Hudson by about 3 to 5%. One of the most interesting things I think we are doing is creating a platform for utility transparency. The majority of the building load will be electric. Residents' apartments will be sub-metered and responsible for energy consumption. We have found that if residents are responsible for the cost of the energy consumed in their apartments, there is a behavioral shift in their habits. For example, residents are more mindful of turning off the AC when they leave their apartment. This building will go a step beyond, whereby we have a resident engagement application where residents can see their energy consumption on a real-time basis, visible on an app or on their computer. Instead of waiting a month for a utility bill, residents can see their usage daily and find ways to cut it the next day. Additionally, we plan on having an interactive kiosk in the base of the lobby where we can run competitions between floors, who has the lowest load, and engage our residents. Our thought with unlocking this information is that people will become more responsible for their own behaviors, and behavior plays a very large role in reducing the load of a building. I thank you for your time today, and I look forward to adding this building to the skyline of a great city that I love.